So a little while back, I'm sitting on the pot. I forgot my phone, so I've got no choice but to acknowledge my surroundings for a while. And I'm thinking I should repaint the bathroom. And I'm going through, different colors in my head, trying to visualize it. But then it kind of dawns on me that this is the only room in my house that doesn't have gun crap jammed into every nook and cranny available. It's ridiculous, folks. I live in a hovel. There's no other word for it. It's a tiny little hovel. Like if you and your wife finally take that Appalachian camping vacation you've been talking about, at some point, she'll be in the passenger seat looking out the window and you're driving and she'll just say, I cannot believe people live like this. That's where I live. Like that's my thing. I like it. I'm happy with it. I could leave if I wanted to. I'm well traveled. I've got rich life experiences. I met a black person one time, so I reject your stereotypes. However, here I am in my hovel with no room for the collection of gun and gun crap that I've accumulated. So it's time for a bunch of it to go. My gun-related stuff should be things that are useful, things that are interesting, things that make me want to shoot. And that's not how it is right now. I got a bunch of crap I don't need. So I've got quite a few guns I'm going to be getting rid of, and today is the start of that process. My regular viewers will be very familiar with my Thompson Center Compass chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. We've shot the heck out of this gun, made a billion videos. It's a really good shooting gun. I've got an Oryx chassis for it. I've got a Boyd stock for it. So it's a pretty nice little package, and I've got just the person that could make good use of it. A young acquaintance of mine who needs a gun just like this. So the plan for today is to load up a whole bunch of ammo for this 6.5 Creedmoor. Go out and test it. I've got several muzzle devices here, and in particular this Silencer Co. flash hider. In the past, the gun shot really well with this on it. That's one thing about this gun. Like, it's always shot much better with my suppressors attached than in any other configuration. And this gun was part of a lot of the barrel harmonics testing we kind of looked into a little bit, and we put a whole bunch of different muzzle devices on it to see if we could come up with some sort of pattern of what made it shoot good and what didn't. And it was very picky about which muzzle device it had. So we're going to try out a couple, pick the one that shoots best, and go from there. Right now the gun is in the Oryx chassis. I suspect that's what the new owner will want to keep it in, but just in case, I do want to go ahead and put it into the Boyd's wooden stock. If nothing more, just I want to make sure I've got all the hardware together and everything to give them, so they'll have that option in the future. The Boyd's is a good bit lighter than the chassis, so if they wanted to, hunt with the gun or something, that might be a better option. So I pulled out a ton of brass. I've got like 140 pieces or so of Starline small primer brass. I've got some Hornady large primer brass, about 40 pieces of that. So we'll load those up with a target load using the 140 grain Hornady match boat-tail hollow point. This gun has always really liked that bullet. I've also got 50 pieces of brand new Starline large primer brass, and I want to use this for a deer load. So for that, I'm thinking we'll go with the 130 grain Sierra Game Changer. I also pulled out some of the 143 grain Hornady ELDX bullets. So, one of those two bullets will work up some deer loads, or a deer load, so we can hand off, a couple hundred pieces of target ammo and then a box of 50 deer hunting loads. Now, unfortunately, Hodgdon has discontinued this Enduron series of IMR powders, because IMR 4451 has been really good for me, and it's a lot like H4350, and that time period when H4350 was just about impossible to get, IMR 4451 made a great substitute. So a little bit sad that this powder is not going to be available anymore, but I mean, to be honest, we've got a lot of options, and that H4350 section of the burn rate chart is pretty crowded. Like this is, looking at Hodgdon's entire lineup, it's a little bit redundant. So it is what it is. I mean, I guess we're lucky that it's really pretty rare for powders to get discontinued. So I'm not going to get too upset when a good one needs to go. So I think where we'll start is to just go ahead and load all of this with our 140 grain Hornady match boat-tail hollow point. This is an old load we've shot a lot of, 41.6 grains of IMR 4451. Standard overall length, 2.8 inches. For the small primer brass, I'm going to use the CCI 450 primer, and the large primer brass, we'll use the CCI 200. So the same recipe we've used quite a bit. The brass, I have already annealed all of this brass, except for the the new Starline Large primer that we're going to use for the hunting loads. That's brand new. I didn't waste any time annealing that. But all of this stuff has been annealed and it's been tumbled. So step one is going to be to resize all of this. So let's get started with that. So while all this case lube dries, I want to share a major accomplishment with you. This was a job I've been avoiding, dreading for a long time. I pulled all of these bullets out of loaded ammo. Here are all of the primers that came out of that ammo. That should give you some idea of what sort of job. 15 to 20 hours easy I've got in this. A lot of it was just old ammo from my grandfather's stuff with some of my own stuff mixed in. That's the brass, or that's part of the brass. Totally overwhelming. Feels really good to have that behind me. And also, you know, just not to have a bunch of loaded ammo laying around that may or may not have been safe. Who knows? That's how it ended up in that pile. You see, that's like 2 square feet of available space in my hovel now that used to be occupied with janky ammo. That's progress. Now, one thing I should have made clear earlier, I am definitely not giving up on 6.5 Creedmoor. I love 6.5 Creedmoor. If you're looking to hunt deer, it is an easy cartridge to recommend. And speaking of that, whenever I was trying to get all of my brass together and figure out what I wanted to use, I saw that all of that brass we've run in the AR-10 has really got some pretty bad marks on the neck from the barrel extension in that upper. So that's most likely my next project in 6.5 Creedmoor, is to get that upper pulled out and probably end up doing some polishing work on that barrel extension to make it quit doing that. I'm not sure. But at least for the foreseeable future, the AR-10 is where I'm going to be shooting 6.5 Creedmoor. Because I've got the 6.5 PRC that haven't spent nearly enough time with. I'm still very interested in that cartridge. So between the 6.5 PRC, the 6.5 Creedmoor, and 6.5 Grendel, that's a pretty nice variety of cartridges to play around with in 6.5 millimeter. And the Compass is just kind of an extra gun at this point. We don't got room for that crap. All right, Hornady cartridge. Let's use a Hornady press. We're using Hornady dies, Hornady bullet, some Hornady brass. And speaking of Hornady, that gigantic batch of bullets that I pulled, man, I really came to love the Hornady Camlock bullet puller. I think I made a video about it at some point many years ago, but so helpful. Pretty much all of the rifle ammo was pulled with this, and it did a good job. Stuff like the grip and pull rub and tug. This is great to have around if you just need to pull 1 or 2. But if you're pulling more than that, just gripping this thing really starts hurting after a while. And a lot of the pistol stuff I had to pull, I used a kinetic bullet puller because there wasn't enough exposed bullet for the Camlock to get a hold of. So I really had no other choice. But the Camlock definitely made the rifle stuff easy. Okay, this press might drive me a little bit crazy right now during sizing die setup, because you know the Hornady, get it out of here, has got the lock and load bushings, which are pretty cool especially once you get your dies locked down. You know, it's easy to swap them in and out. But I wish the bushing locked into the press. Sometimes whenever you're adjusting a die, it makes things a little bit more difficult. Now, so this Hornady Lock and Load Classic press is a cam over press. So as you're dropping your handle and the ram's going up, it actually reaches the top and then moves down a little bit at the very bottom of the handle stroke. So whenever we're setting up our sizing die, we'll have to keep that in mind, because with the handle all the way down, if you screwed this until it touched, it's actually a lot farther down than you want it. So I need to make sure I'm kind of probing that ram travel so I get a good feel for where I'm at. Okay, that's a good starting point. Now to set up this die, I've got a couple pieces that were definitely fired. The number on our headspace comparator, we're starting at 1.536. So let's see where we're at right now. Didn't change, so we're not touching the shoulder yet, which is fine. And this is the part that drives me crazy. So I need to loosen my lock ring, and it's going to want to loosen the whole, the whole stinking lock and load bushing. Okay, I think that's a little adjustment. Okay, so this next piece, it was at 1.536, now it's at 1.5345. So we've bumped the shoulder 1.5 thousandths, which is enough. Let's try the next one. That one didn't bump quite as much. Let's make another adjustment down. You know, we've got some mixed brass in here, right? We've got some Hornady brass. I've got a different number of firings on a lot of this. You know, some of this Starline is twice fired and some of it's 3 and 4 times fired. So setting the die a little bit lower, bumping it a little bit more than we strictly have to, might not be a bad idea, just to make sure that everything gets bumped enough and we don't end up with brass that doesn't fit in the gun. Okay, 1.536 before. Got 1.5 thousandths of bump. One more little adjustment down and then we'll call it good. Okay, 1.533, so that's 3 thousandths. 3 thousandths of bump. I'm going to run several through now of all of the different head stamps. Then I'll grab the gun and make sure everything's going to chamber okay. Okay, so everything fit into the gun nicely. So I just need to make my way through the whole batch and then we'll be ready for trimming. So very good news. All of the Starline brass is well below our max length. I measured every stinking one of them. The only ones that need a little bit trimmed off is some of the Hornady brass that I've got. So that won't take very long. Just this little batch here. Just going to set up the old Trim Pro and it'll only take a minute. Okay, I'm ready for primers. I finished up sizing and put the brass in the tumbler for just a little bit to get the case lube off of everything. Took them out and deburred and chamfered all of the case mouths. So primers are next. I separated the large primers and the small primers while I was doing the case mouth work. So once I prime them, just like that. Good looking primer right there. That is a piece of Starline, so it goes into that box. This one's a Hornady, so it goes over here. You get the idea. I'm going to do that like 250 times. Okay, a whole lot of charges to weigh out, so we're going with the dual powder dispenser configuration. I'm going to hit them with some check weights here real quick. Make sure they're not lying to me. The Lyman Gen 6 looks good and the RCBS Charge Master Lite looks good. So even with 2 of these running, it's going to take a while. So let's see, 41.6 is our number. Okay, so I got the first 75 or so charges weighed out, and I want to go ahead and set up our bullet seating die. So before I remove this sizing die, I want to index it just so I can get it back in the same spot. I'm just going to make a little Sharpie mark on the lock and load bushing and the press. I did tighten down the set screw on the lock ring the other day, so we should be able to put that guy right back in no problem whenever we need to size more brass. So here's another bushing. And here's my 6.5 millimeter Hornady seating die. We need to put a case in here and go ahead and raise it up. So I screwed it down until it touched. Now I'm going to come out about a turn and make sure the scale is in a spot where I can read it. That looks good right there. And we shouldn't have to move this at all, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the set screw. If I can find the right size Allen wrench. That's the one. Okay, so we're locked in. I guess while I've got the Sharpie handy, I can go ahead and mark this bushing as well, just for the heck of it. And we're ready to dial in our number, which is 2.8 inches. I think I've got it backed out plenty. Okay, that did seat the bullet a little bit. That's good, so we can get a measurement. Holy crap, it's perfect. I should have backed out quite a bit more. 2.802. Oops, that was luck. I'm going to seat a couple of them and we'll get some measurements. These hollow point Botel Hornady bullets got a bit of variation, so I'm just going to seat several and see about where we're at, because we've got some magazine restriction here. We can't go much longer than 2.8. These are seating nice and smooth. Yeah, this is actually perfect. That first one, the 2.802, was the longest one. And the shortest magazine we're dealing with is a Magpul AICS mag for the Oryx chassis. Just want to make sure I've got a little bit of clearance. Yeah, we've got clearance. I think these are fine out to, 2.8. 810 definitely, but maybe even a little bit more than that. I think the other one I've got is an Accurate mag. I think it's got quite a bit more space. Yeah, plenty of room there. Now the factory magazine, which is what we'll use in the Boyd's stock, is really long. It's got tons and tons of room. You can go much longer than the AICS mags. I'll tell you what I should do is grab some of this other brass. So these first few pieces have been Hornady brass. Let's seat some in some Starline brass and make sure we're not getting any difference. First one's perfect, 2.799. Yeah, these feel just as nice and smooth as the Hornady did. That one's also 2.799. So it looks like we're good to go. So if something interesting pops up, I'll turn the camera back on. But I just need to do this, 160 more times. And then we'll be ready to go out on the range and test out some muzzle devices. I feel like I'm losing my voice or something. I've been out in the woods a lot. My gun season came in a couple days ago. I haven't had any luck yet. I've got it's a little 7-point buck. He's a really nice looking deer, but he's just really, really young, and I don't want to shoot him. And I've seen him every single time I've been out there. I have never heard a deer grunt so much. The first time I saw him, he was grunting every step. He must have grunted 50 times, but I haven't seen any does whatsoever. I'm going to get these done and get back out there tomorrow morning. I'm not really sure when I'll get on the range with these. Might be a couple days. So the sun's in a pretty annoying spot, but that's okay. We'll make do. Thompson center compass is in the Oryx chassis. I've got the Silencer Co. muzzle brake installed, and I think it's aligned properly. So I'll go hang a target and we'll get this thing zeroed. We'll do a group with the Silencer Co. brake and then a group with the Silencer Co. flash hider. The barrel threading on these Thompson center compasses kind of sucks. There's not really a shoulder to index off of. So getting this one on there and aligned properly was a bit of a pain in the butt, and I'm not going to bother fooling with that other one. So we'll try out this, we'll try out the flash hider, see which one works best. Hopefully one of them gives us acceptable groups. Okay, let's start by checking our zero, just to get an idea of where we're at. I'm going to aim at the bottom center dot. That's closest to the center of the target. Okay, that's not far off. The barrel is clean, so let's shoot a couple just to get things fouled up and warmed up, and we'll see if it starts grouping. I'll shoot at the same dot. We won't mess with the sights yet. Okay, I think that's 13 clicks up and 5 clicks to the right. Should be a little closer. The wind's really picking up. Probably need to wait it out. Be patient. Okay, those two right on top of each other. Good. Okay, let's clear the target. That's 5 shots, so I'll give it a minute to, don't want to let the heat get out of control, and then we'll do a 10-shot group, see where we're at. I haven't really used this Magpul magazine very much, so let's load it up and we'll feed at least the first 5 off of it. Okay, here we go, 10 shots. Let's make them count. And of course I opened it up a little bit on the last shot. That seems fitting though. Shot marker says it's exactly a 1-inch group. Listen man, I will take that for a 10-shot group. Just catching a little bit of mirage off the barrel there at the end. Yeah, I got it kind of hot. This gun never ceases to amaze me, man. I don't care how much you paid for it. If you can shoot a 10-shot group like that with a thin barrel profile like this, that's a good shooting gun, man. This little thing is amazing. And we've got a couple thousand rounds through it. Crazy. Okay, I'll swap out the muzzle device and we'll do it again. Okay, the silencer code flash hider's on now. I'm just going to assume that our zero doesn't change. I don't know, we might have to, yeah, we'll see what happens. But if it's hitting pretty close, this is the start of our 10-shot group. A little bit low and to the right, but we can work with that. Hopefully my camera's zoomed out enough to catch that. I think it is. This Magpul magazine is feeding very smoothly. I wish my Savage fed this smoothly. That was a bad shot. It wasn't that far out. I'm not going to cry about it, but just a bad trigger pull. It's been a long time since I've shot groups. These are the first groups I've shot in basically a year. So I'm not feeling the most comfortable. That was better. All right. Man, that's awesome. Looks like we can pick either one and expect some pretty good groups. 0.91 inches, back-to-back, sub-MOA, 10-shot groups. It's hard to complain about that. All right, let's get back to the bench. So I decided to go with the flash hider. I've got it rock setted in place and it's had some time to dry, so the new owner shouldn't have to worry about it coming loose. So having another look at the groups, just like by the eyeball test, you know, the size of the group was pretty much the same. Come on, focus. I think I'm driving my camera crazy. But the flash hider group was just better. This one down here was the one I mentioned where it just felt like a bad shot, bad trigger pull. And this one over here was the first shot. And that was after a little bit of a break. So maybe the barrel had cooled down enough to where there was a little bit of shift from warming up. Whenever we go back out on the range, I want to start with, you know, some of our target ammo here and, you know, kind of see how much shift we see during warm up. I think this gun does that a little bit. You know, it takes a couple shots for it to get warmed up and grouping well. Yeah, the break group was good, but it was just more evenly dispersed. So both pretty good, but we're going with the flash hider. You know, it's a 6.5 Creedmoor. There's not a ton of recoil to mitigate with a break. You know, and if the new owner ends up hunting with this gun, a lot of times you end up shooting without hearing protection. The flash hider is going to be a whole lot quieter. So we're looking good. I've been thinking about our hunting bullet situation, and I think what I want to do is I want to load up 10 rounds with each of the bullets and just go shoot them. And, you know, of course, group size will be important. But another thing I'm looking for is which one of these is going to hit to the same point of impact as our target ammo. Because it'd be nice to be able to give them the gun zeroed with the target ammo and, you know, hunting ammo that's going to hit to about the same spot. So maybe the 130 grain Sierra Game Changer, which is, you know, 10 grains lighter, if it's nowhere close to the zero of the 140, then that would be annoying. So we've also got the 143 grain Hornady ELDX. So those are the two options. We're not going to go through a bunch of charge weight testing or anything. With the 143 grain ELDX, I'm going to use the same load we're using with the 140 grain target bullet, 41.6 grains of IMR 4041. And with the 130 grain Sierra Game Changer, I'm going to shoot 43.5 grains of IMR 4451. That's a little over a grain below Sierra's listed max, so I don't expect any problems there. And we'll just go out and see what happens. So the brass for our hunting ammo, we've already prepped it. Remember, it's brand new, large primer, Starline. So just need to dump some powder, seat some bullets, and then we can head back out. So our overall length target on both of these is going to be 2.8. Same magazine restrictions we talked about earlier. So let's start out with the 143 grain ELDX and get it dialed in. I think I definitely backed out enough that time. Definitely too long, which is good. Yeah, 3.016. There's 150. There's 200. We should still be about 16 thousandths too long, hopefully. And we are 2.816. There's 16. I did hear just a little bit of crunch there, so I think we are getting a little bit compressed. The seating stem isn't making any mark on the bullet, so that's good. 2.8. Let's seat a couple of them. Next one's 2.798. 2.797. 2.799. Good. Okay, now on to the Sierra. Back the die back out. A 130 thousandths too long. There's 50. There's 100. Just go ahead and dial this one perfect. .800, right on the number. Next one's 2.805. Then a 2.799. Let me run that 2.805 back through again. Still the same. I think we're good. That'll still fit in the magazine. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got some room to work with. Just don't want to get too far out there. Okay, looking good. Let's go out and shoot them. Okay, we're all set up, targeted 100 yards, ready to go. I had this scope mounted a little bit crooked, so I did loosen it up and straighten it up a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't put our zero too far off, but it might have, I don't know. The gun's completely cold, no shots through it. So we'll start off taking some shots with our target load and see how many shots it takes to calm down and start grouping. Okay, that's not too bad. Shot marker says 0.96 inches. And it looks like I need to come 8 clicks right and maybe 5 clicks down. Okay, so I've cleared the target. Let's see if this puts us a little bit closer. I'm an idiot. Why did I move down? I said, okay, that was 5 clicks back to where we were and then 5 clicks up. It happens, man. I've got crap for brains. Let's clear that. Let's pretend it never happened. Start over. That's better. Perfect adjustment. First time. Maybe I'll cut that last part out. Okay, I think we've made our point there. The next thing I want to do, some of the Hornady brass with a large primer. We haven't shot any of it, so same load, but with Hornady brass and large primers, let's see where that puts us. Hung a little bit out to the left there. Okay, that's pretty close. I'm going to go back to the Starline brass, shoot 1 or 2 more. Just a little bit left. Okay, I'm going to go right, 2 clicks. A little bit to the right. Let's finish off with 2 shots in the Hornady. Okay, that's pretty close. So let's see, those last 9 shots with mixed brass and a couple scope adjustments was still 1.7 inches. Pretty close. All right, that's quite a few shots. She's nice and warmed up, no doubt. I'm going to give it a minute to cool down and we'll move on to the hunting ammo. Okay, the gun's had some time to cool down. The barrel's cold to the touch. So let's start with our Hornady. This is the 143 grain ELDX. With the same powder charge we've been shooting. See what happens. Okay, just a little bit over an inch, 1.18 inches. Pretty close to the same zero. If he does decide to take this gun out hunting, it'll be, Appalachian whitetails, where it's more likely to get a 20-yard shot than a 200-yard shot. So that little bit of impact shift would probably be unimportant for the most part. Okay, I'm going to let the gun cool down for just a few minutes and then we'll shoot the Sierras. Okay, this is the 130 grain Sierra Game Changer. Okay, so we've got an easy decision. The Sierras were the bigger group, 1.87 inches, and they shot farther from the point of impact of our target ammo. So we're going with the Hornadies, the 143 grain ELDX. Doesn't shoot very far off. The velocity is pretty much the same as our target ammo, the 140 grain target ammo. So it's all good. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to run inside and put this gun into the Boyd stock and just take some shots with the Boyd stock. I never glass bedded that stock. Now my 300 Winchester Magnum Thompson Center compass, I bedded that stock and I installed pillars and all that stuff. But I never bothered with this because I had the Oryx chassis. So we'll see how it shoots. So as it turns out, my front action screw was coming loose. I had torqued them to spec, something, I think it's 65 inch-pounds or 70 inch-pounds, something like that. And I hadn't checked it since we've been shooting, but it was definitely coming loose. The Boyd stock is a pain in the butt, and I kind of forgot how much of a pain in the butt it is. It's the front action screw on that guy and the magazine catch takes a lot of work to get it right and get it in there properly. So I'm not going to give him that stock. I know a bunch of people that have compasses. I'll give it to one of them instead. But what I do have is the factory stock, and if he wants a lighter package, this is a good option. It always shot really good in the factory stock. We really upgraded the stock for ergonomics, so it would shoot better off of bags on the bench. But if you wanted to set it up for a hunt or something, there's nothing better than this light plastic stock. So that's where I've got it installed. We'll shoot a quick 5-shot group just to see how it does. I did loosen up the scope base and put some blue Loctite on those screws. So I don't think anything changed, but we'll see. But who knows how far our zero might be off just from how that action screw was loose. All right, let's do a 5-shot group. Yeah, that's about 2 MOA low. Let's go ahead and crank on the sights. I'm going to move right like 2 clicks, maybe 3 clicks, and up a couple more. Okay, let's clear our target now and see if we can start a group. Actually, I'll go ahead and move over to a fresh dot. Top off the magazine. Screwed it up with the last shot. That's okay. Nice little group. Gun's kind of moving all over the place because this is, I didn't change out my front rest, and this one's meant for flat stocks. So this round stock's a little bit all over the place. So I'm more than happy with that. So the old stock still works, got all the hardware. Make sure I give them the right screws and all that crap. So I'm going to run back in, put it back in the chassis. I'm going to clean up those action screws, and I think I'm going to put some blue Loctite on them. Then we'll come back out for kind of the final zeroing. Okay, so we're back in the chassis. Everything's blue Loctited and torqued down as tight as I dare. So I want to see if we can get like a really good zero. I think where we left off with the factory stock, we were just a little bit to the right. I don't know, my brain's mush. Let's see where we're at. I've got something screwed up. Trigger won't go off. Clearly I got something bound up. Like it's going off, but it just doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like it used to. So let me go fix that. Okay, that's way high. Need to come down 3 MOA. That might have been a little bit too much. Let's do one more just to verify. Yep, let's come up 3 clicks and let's go left. Go left 2 clicks. Let's go up 2 more. Let's go right 1 click. Okay, just check the action screw to be sure. Still feels tight. Let's clear the target and start a new group. We'll do a 5-shot group and then see if we need to make any adjustments. Okay, 3's enough. Let's come left 2 clicks. And I think that's right back where we were. So kind of chasing my tail here a little bit, which is fine. All right, got this barrel pretty smoking hot, catching a little bit of mirage. So I'm going to give it a minute to cool down. We'll shoot 5 more. So just for the heck of it, I went ahead and pulled the action out of the stock one last time. And then put it back together. Just want to make sure that we can do that without the zero shifting. So I'm a little freaked out by how much it had changed between the factory stock and this and the chassis. I don't know, we'll see. 5 more shots and we'll call it done, assuming we've got a pretty good zero. So what the heck was that first shot? You know, number 6 up there high and to the left. Was that everything settling back in? You know, like the action and the recoil lug kind of getting seated back into place? I don't know, man. Guns are so weird. All right, I think we're going to call it good enough. We're not going to make any more progress by chasing a couple clicks here and there. So let's get back to the bench. So I think this is where I'm going to end the video. I went ahead and reloaded all of the brass we fired in our range trip, so I've got everything loaded up and ready to go. But I am going to go back on the range one more time with the gun and double check some stuff, because that trigger was still not feeling like it was. And it was freaking me out. Like, it felt good whenever we put it in the factory stock, but something happened whenever I put it back in the chassis. I don't know if I bumped something or what happened, but I tore the whole trigger apart and put it back together. And it's feeling normal again now. So I don't even know specifically what was going on. And I also had a minor problem with the recoil lug. The recoil lug for these Thompson Center compasses is weird. And there's really a very, very, very small contact area between the action and the recoil lug. So whenever I first got this Oryx chassis, I found that I needed to like a little bit of a shim underneath the bottom of the recoil lug to bring it up to make the best contact with the action, and just use a really thin strip of duct tape worked perfectly. and that had ended up like slipping a little bit, and there was also a little bit of gunk from the tape down in the area where the recoil lug sits. It's hard to explain, but the recoil lug really wasn't moving the way that it should. Because normally you put the action in the stock and get your action screws started, and you can still move the action forward and back and feel that contact happening with the recoil lug, and that was feeling really weird. So I got that fixed. It's feeling perfect now. It feels like it should. Feeling confident about that. I've got the action screws Loctited, got the scope base Loctited. The trigger feels good again now. Everything's good. Even got a fresh battery in the scope. So I'm gonna run out and check the zero one more time before I hand the gun off, but we've seen enough shooting in this video. Even with all the problems, the gun was still shooting good. I'm happy with that sort of accuracy, and I think it's gonna be a really good platform for a young guy to learn some marksmanship, My original plan for this gun, after I got the pressure trace system, I was going to put a pressure gauge on it and then blow it up. Like do a video where we just try some really stupid loads and see what it takes to blow up a gun. That just seems like a big waste of a gun that still shoots really good, I'd rather go to the pawn shop and buy something cheap for that sort of stuff and get some more good use out of this gun. So we burned through a couple pounds of IMR 4451, so that's good. Still got like 4 pounds left. I'm sure I'll find a use for it. Still haven't had any luck with the deer. I'm almost to the point where I'm just going to dump a pile of corn in the corner of the yard and shoot them out the window or something. But I've still got a whole week left of season, so I probably shouldn't resort to drastic measures quite yet. But I really want to get one with the 257 Roberts, so I'm going to stick with it. So I think that's it. Appreciate you joining me. My next video shouldn't be too long. I got the new front sight post for my Swiss K31 that's supposed to, sight it in for 100 yards. Pretty excited to get that installed and tested out. So that's probably what you'll see next. So that's it for today. See you guys next time.